Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Voice of the People. I'm your host, Tim Johnson. Now, today we're going to start the segment off with a segment I like to call False Stories. For new viewers, this segment highlights the false news circulating around the world. Now, international media have claimed that our great nation is in fact a rogue nation. And they also claim that the commander is nothing but a dictator. These claims are obviously ridiculous. The commander is a kind and generous man and has received a 98.5% vote in the last election, and polls show that he's the highest rated leader we've ever had. The international media need to report on their own people and focus on their own problems and stop spreading this false news. Now, moving on with today's headlines, the commander has issued a new law that will allow for...
We are live in 5, 4, 3.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Voice of the People. I'm your host, Tim Johnson. I've been given some terrific news that I'm able to share with the fantastic people of this great nation. Our powerful military have successfully tested another intercontinental ballistic missile. The commander has spoken today and has said, and I quote, "Let this missile test act as a warning to the rest of the world that our great nation should not be provoked." In other news, the United Nations Secretary General has today spoken about the...
If you guys, the teleprompter still isn't up, we should have it up shortly.
Alright, thank you.
So, yeah, that's it. Do you know if Zoe ended up going to that demonstration?
I wouldn't know. She hasn't spoken to me in weeks. You know how it is. Oldest wants to rule the world and the youngest wants to change it.
Well, you know what they say. Why fix something that's not broken?
Yeah. Hey, how are you and Kim? I haven't seen her since the Christmas party.
Yeah. She was a little bit outspoken, so I thought it best ended.
Jesus, Tim. People are allowed to have an opinion. Not going to get shot for it.
We're all good with the teleprompter, guys.
Perfect. Good luck.
Moving on. Now, there are some rumours going around that our largest nuclear facility has been destroyed by a foreign power and has left over 500 people dead. Now, this couldn't be further from the truth, as the commander has spoken to me personally and has said that he had made the decision that the facility was obsolete and needed to be destroyed in order to make way for a bigger and better facility. Also, there were no casualties. Sorry about that, folks. In other news, the commander has made the decision to send a large formation of warships to the coast of nations that we consider as enemies. The commander feels that this will send a message that our great nation will not be trifled with. Today, a man from the capital has been charged with several offences, including
Tim, I think I'm being followed. The same white van's been out the front of my house for the past 3 days. Every time I look in the rear view mirror, it's
Jesus.
there.
And you're starting to sound crazy.
John, Mel and Reggie haven't been to work in the past 3 weeks. When was the last time you remember any of them taking a sick day?
What are you trying to say?
Well, you know how they felt about things.
Look, can we stop talking about this? We go live in an hour and
Fuck, Tim, what if they're watching us?
You're being ridiculous. They don't. They wouldn't. What, do you think they just bugged the office? We're on their side, and?
Maybe you're right. I'm worried.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Voice of the People. I'm your host, Tim Johnson. Sorry. I've got some great news. The Commander has authorised the Navy to execute various bombing raids in major cities across the world with casualties estimated in the millions. The Commander has said that this attack was a preemptive strike, and this will finally bring the inferior nations in line. The Commander has also declared war on these inferior nations and expects their surrender in the next few hours. And now onto the finance report. Our dollar is at an all-time high and is now trading at...
By Sunday, the people of Box Springs thank God that their homes were still there. Oftentimes, it takes tragedy to bring out the best in people. According to Box Springs homeowner Michael Boatman, the people of Dinah Street feel that if the city won't help them, they can help each other.
The fuck, Anne?
Listen, I spoke to Mum last night and Zoe hasn't been home the last few days.
You know what she's like? She's probably at a protest or something.
Not this time. Things are different.
You really need to stop speaking like this.
Why?
Because people have been jailed for less. You just need to get back to work and wait for all of this to blow over.
You think this is just gonna go away? Tim, I'm in trouble and I need your help. You know people that can help, people that can look for Zoe, people that could at least...
I don't! I can't. I need to get back to work.
We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Voice of the People. I'm your host, Tim Johnson. We have some breaking news. Our great nation is currently being invaded. The Commander has assured us that the armies of the inferior nations will be destroyed swiftly. And in other news, the Commander has issued a curfew for residents. It's our responsibility to the people. Just do your fucking job!
Oh, okay, well, we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Voice of the People. I'm your host, Tim Johnson. Tonight, I'm going to address the rumours that an evacuation has been planned for the Commander and his cabinet. This is nothing but false propaganda being spread by our enemies. It is at this point that I'd like to remind viewers that if you are caught spreading these rumours, you will be charged with treason. The penalty for which is death. The Commander has assured us that he is with us now more than ever. Rest easy, people. You will not be abandoned.
Tim, we have to leave the capital. They're closing in. Listen, I've got a mate who's a pilot. He says he can get us out of the country.
I think we should stay.
They're raiding government buildings and they're not taking prisoners. They'll kill you.
Why do you care what happens to me, Anne? Why do you always want to help when I've never done the same for you?
We were all scared. Tim, now come on.
Anne. In August, when you asked me about Zoe, you asked if I could help.
Tim.
I knew where she was.
You found her? You found out for me?
I knew what happened to her before you asked me. She's dead.
Shut up.
know what? You're a fucking coward. Stay, do whatever you want, I don't care.
Hello. As you may be able to tell, this isn't a normal episode of The Voice of the People. Now, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the commander is dead. His plane was shot down as he was trying to flee the country. It's actually funny if you think about it. This guy wages war on the world, and in the first signs of trouble, he flees the country and gets killed in the process. What a leader we have. Well, had. But I suppose the commander isn't entirely to blame for the situation we're in. It's on us all as well. Like any other democracy, we felt our country wasn't being run the way it should be, and our voices weren't being heard. But then this guy comes along and promises us the world. And we actually believe in this bullshit! We gave him absolute power. I know I've played a major part in this regime. And for that, I'm truly sorry. Fuck. They're here. I haven't got much time. Now, listen. I know there's people out there in the streets still fighting across the country. But listen to me. Put down your weapons. We can still rebuild the country we once had.